So, how are you guys doing today? This is the CEO Sports Show for August 26, 2025. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Commanders re-signing Terry McLaurin. We're going to be talking about the rework deal with Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're also going to be talking about who my national championship pick is going to be for college football. Before we get into the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. I just want to say thank you guys for all the support to the Kretschman media shows so far. CEO Sports Show has been doing very good so far, as has the Stadium Pulse and the Mic Drop. Very good things happening right now over here at Kretschman Media. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe. Always do those things and turn on push notifications. That would be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's get into the episode and let's talk about the Commanders re-signing Terry McLaurin. So I want to read two articles here. One by John Keim from ESPN. He said, the Commanders and wide receiver Terry McLaurin reached agreement Monday on a 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million that will end his hold-in and get him in uniform for the regular season opener against the Giants. Agents Buddy Baker and Tony Bonagura told ESPN's Adam Schefter. McLaurin receives a $30 million signing bonus in his deal. ESPN sources told ESPN. McLaurin and the Commanders front office have been at odds over his value since talks began early this offseason. By getting this deal done, the Commanders will retain their most consistent offensive player since he arrived as a third-round pick in 2019. McLaurin, coming off his second Pro Bowl appearance, has surpassed 1,000 yards for 5 consecutive seasons. He had hoped that this would result in a speedy extension, but that did not come. And McLaurin expressed deep frustration during a 30-minute news press conference July 15th. He did not report to camp a week later and was fined for missing the first 4 days, a total of $200,000. He already had been fined $104,768 for missing the mandatory 3-day minicamp in June. But after reporting, McLaurin was placed on the physically unable to perform list with an ankle injury the team said had occurred late in the season. He was able to participate in voluntary workouts in the spring before skipping the OTA practice and minicamp. He was activated from the PUP list August 16th. McLaurin requested a trade July 31st, but that was not something Washington considered. According to multiple reports and league sources, the name most mentioned as a guide for McLaurin's desires was Pittsburgh Steelers receiver DK Metcalf. After trading for him this offseason, the Steelers gave Metcalf a 4-year deal worth $33 million per year with $60 million guaranteed. McLaurin's age was an issue for Washington, according to multiple sources. He will turn 31 when the contract extension begins, and age receivers typically start to decline. The Commanders are a team that places strong emphasis on analytics. Among the top 24 active receivers with most guaranteed money, only one, Miami Dolphins' Tyreek Hill, was 30 or older upon signing. Washington also wanted to avoid a precedent of what it saw as overpaying players to retain a player. According to team sources, because it has several key players up for costly extensions or new deals next offseason, tackle Laramie Tunsil, linebacker Frankie Louisville, and potentially Marshawn Lattimore and receiver Deebo Samuel. Realize that I made a face when the gentleman put that in the article, but I understand why he had to do that. By retaining McLaurin beyond this season, the Commanders give quarterback Jaden Daniels his favorite target when the season begins. The two players developed a strong rapport in camp last season, which carried into 2024. When McLaurin finished with 82 catches for 1,096 yards, his 13 touchdowns was one less than his tally over his previous 3 years combined. Daniels posted a total QBR of 90.6 out of 100 when targeting McLaurin. Of his 12 passes that gained 30 or more yards by wideouts, 6 went to McLaurin. Okay, so that was the ESPN article. That was the ESPN write-up. I want to talk about the Mike Florio write-up on Pro Football Talk on NBC Sports. So this is by Mike Florio, so I do want to make sure that I give him the credit. All too often in player contracts, the initial numbers leaked to the lineup of Twitter thumb racers have been inflated. I do enjoy that about Mike Florio, by the way, that he calls out these guys. No one asks questions before hitting the post button because he/she who hesitates has lost. Then the real numbers emerge and the truth becomes known, and it's not the same as the initial reports. As to the new deal signed by the Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin, some of the initial reports pegged the 3-year extension at $96 million, giving it a straight $32 million new money APY. At least one report described it as being worth over $96 million. Then came something likely closer to the truth. The magic words, quote, up to, were added to the number, which is another way of saying, quote, not $96 million. That makes the truth even more important than knowing the actual value of the deal. As one source who has been attempting to drudge up the real numbers told PFT on Monday, the details have been, quote, very elusive. It's no surprise in this case, in post-Truth America, where the harm is in doing a deal that has a base value of, for instance, less than $30 million per year, but pumping it up with incentives and escalators and another phony baloney devices to make it seem worth more than $30 million. If the team agrees not to blow up the BS with, facts, no harm, no foul. The truth inevitably will emerge. When it does, we'll have it. If the numbers are delayed long enough, few will care by then. I will say this. I really do enjoy Mike Florio's writing and reporting when it comes to, contracts and the legal side of football, because he really does call people out. But when we talk about Terry McLaurin, I think that the Washington Commanders are going to regret this deal. I just do. I mean, we'll see what happens with the details and how this ends up looking, but he's going to start this new contract extension at the age 31 season. He's 29 right now. He turns 30 on September 15th. So next season, when the contract really kicks in, he's going to be 31. He's going to have age 32 season in year 2 and age 33 season in year 3. You have to ask yourself, if you're the Commanders, is it worth paying the type of money to keep Terry McLaurin around for the long term? Is that worth it? I get it. Jaden Daniels had a lot of success targeting Terry McLaurin this year. I understand that. But he's also going to be 30 in a few weeks. And receivers don't all of a sudden get better when they turn 30. They usually get worse. And when you talk about the top 24 active receivers with the most guaranteed money, and the only receiver above the age of 30 is Tyreek Hill, like, Terry McLaurin is not Tyreek Hill. He's not one of those guys. He's not one of the elite receivers in the NFL. If he's a top 10 receiver, I think he is. He's at the bottom half of the top 10. He's in that 8, 9, 10 range. And he's not, again, a player that is going to be emerging over the next couple years here. He's probably going to be declining, because that's what receivers do when they hit the age of 30. They don't all of a sudden get better. And when you look at the best receivers in the league, you got Lamb. I think he's making a little under $35 million. Jamar Chase is making $40 million. Justin Jefferson, $35 million. AJ Brown, $32 million. Are you trying to tell me that Terry McLaurin, now I know that the market changes, are you trying to tell me that Terry McLaurin is worth as much as AJ Brown, when Terry McLaurin, again, is going to be above the age of 30 throughout this extension? I just don't see that being the case. I think that the Commanders are going to regret this deal. I think that they did not handle this the right way, because this is probably the deal that Terry McLaurin wanted all along. So if they were just going to end up giving it to him, why didn't they give it to him one earlier? That's what I really don't understand. But again, receivers don't get better when they turn 30. And that's my whole point of this. If Terry McLaurin was 26, 27 years old and he was getting this extension, fine, perfect. Understand that. The age gives me a real cause to pause when it comes to this situation. And I just can't look past that. I always feel like it's better to trade a guy a year early than a year late. And once you get into this point where you're paying guys above the age of 30, that's just not a game you want to be involved in. And I get it in the short term. It may hurt you when it comes to, Jaden Daniels not having his best receiver. But 2-3 years down the line, when, Terry McLaurin is 33 years old and you're like, man, we got to pay this guy how much money? I think that the Commanders are ultimately going to regret this. But again, you got all these guys, Dan Orlovsky, all these media kiss up to the players. Pay him all the money in the world. Pay all these guys. Pay everybody. And they never take into account the business side of things. Football teams are businesses. At the end of the day, they're not money factories where they can just give every player everything they want. That's not how this works. I just find it funny. ESPN, FS1, all these people on X, they're so great at spending other people's money. They never take into consideration the people who actually have to spend the money. And I get it. It's unfortunate that Terry McLaurin is a bit older. But you want to know what's unfortunate? The fact that he plays in a sport where you have to be blessed with natural athletic gifts. And other people that play the sport cannot reach the level that he reached because they don't have that natural athletic ability. Do you think that these players don't run businesses where they're cutthroat? I'm not saying that's Terry McLaurin, but there's plenty of players out there that do that. So the NFL, it's a rough business. I get it. But to anybody who's new to the world of business, new to the world of following business, business is not fun. It's not supposed to be buddy-buddy. It's business at the end of the day. Everybody is in it for their best interests. And I don't believe the best interest of the Washington Commanders is signing Terry McLaurin to the contract that they signed him to. Just my personal opinion. But another contract negotiation that got settled is Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals. They reached an agreement on a reported $14 million raise, ending his hold-in a long-time contract saga. Hendrickson is in the final year of his contract, but will earn $30 million this season after negotiations stalled multiple times. This is by Kerry Anderson on Yahoo Sports. After months of talk, Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals have finally reached a deal. The Bengals announced Monday they've agreed on a new deal with Hendrickson that will reportedly give him a $14 million raise on his existing contract, per multiple reports. The agreement ends a month-long saga that resulted in multiple trade explorations and a hold-in through most of training camp. The star defensive end will now stay with Cincinnati through the 2025 season. Hendrickson is in the final year of his contract and was set to make $15.8 million in base salary. The new agreement will boost his salary to $30 million, making him one of the best defensive players, one of the highest paid defenders in 2025. One of the biggest holdups in contract negotiations was guaranteed money, with Hendrickson saying last week the Bengals were willing to guarantee money throughout the rest of the season, but not past. A reworked deal for this season will give Hendrickson the payday he wants and resolves the issue in the short term before the two revisit a longer deal in the offseason. Bengals, Hendrickson reach an agreement after months of, this might be another write-up, if I'm not, I believe this is another right. Oh, no, it's not. It's been a very long road to get to this point, as Hendrickson and Cincinnati have caught in a stalemate for months. I don't think I'm going to read the rest of this. It's pretty much the same thing that we just read. I want to look up Trey Hendrickson's age real quick, just for reference. He's 30 years old. He's going to be 31 December 5th. Okay. Bengals handled this perfectly. They did. They absolutely handled this the way it needed to be handled. When a player turns 30, they don't all of a sudden become better. They don't all of a sudden reach this new level that they're going to be one of the best in the league, which Hendrickson is one of the best in the league for sure. But again, committing long-term money to a guy past the age of 30 is not the way to go about business. Again, there's a lot of people who are great at spending other people's money. Dan Orlovsky, I'm talking to you, and I'm going to keep calling you out because you're the biggest culprit of this. Pay everybody. Pay them all. I don't understand where people are coming from when they look at a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who, by the way, extremely productive, not when it comes to on the field play, not pushing back at all. He's one of the best defensive ends in the league. But again, he's above the age of 30. And it's not about what you have done. It's about what you're going to do. This is business at the end of the day. You have to make a move that makes the most business sense. And I always think it is the right move to move on from somebody a year earlier than a year later. I would have traded Trey Hendrickson. I would have looked to have traded him, because right now you're not going to get more value than what you are next year. Like, if you were to trade him now, you could probably get a second round pick for Trey Hendrickson. Easily get a second round pick, amongst other things, possibly. But again, he is above the age of 30, so that's something that you have to take into consideration. Age is a thing in football. NFL executives are ageist. That's just what they are, right? So again, I would have traded him because you're not going to get more than you would have gotten right now. And I don't think that the Cincinnati Bengals are Super Bowl contenders. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think this defense is really bad, just like it was last year. And I think it's going to be the same story as last year, where they're going to have to put up a bunch of points to win games. And I just don't think that that's a reliable way of playing football and winning football games. I just don't see that being the case. So, it is unfortunate that they only have him under contract for a year, where I still think they probably missed the playoffs instead of just trading him. But again, this is going to help their defense out a lot. It's one of the worst in the league. But again, it was one of the worst in the league with Trey Hendrickson on the field. And I don't think it's going to be much better this year. I don't think they've done a ton to improve this defense. And that's ultimately the sticking point when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, good on the Bengals. They got what they wanted here. They got what they wanted. If Trey Hendrickson goes out there again and has a tremendous season, then, hey, we'll go back to the negotiating table and we'll see where we're at. If you put up another 15, 16 sack season and you still look like you have juice, yeah, we'll consider signing you to a 2-3 year contract. But if he were to go out this year, just like Terry McLaurin, if he were to go out this year and have a year where he looks like he starts to decline, then you're going to be kicking yourself knowing I got to pay this guy for another 2 to 3 years. It's just the way it is in the NFL. So good for them. Hey, we'll give you more money this year. And by the end of the season, we'll see where we're at. And if we have to pay you more than what we would have paid you at this time last year, then we just got to pay you more. It is what it is. But at least we have that confidence knowing, hey, he just had a productive season. And yes, he is about to be a free agent, but we have the ability to look at that and say, okay, we just saw the season you just had. You had another 15, 17 sack season. And we feel confident that, yeah, you may not be able to give us that over the life of this contract. But if you're able to give us 10 to 13 sacks and we're paying you $33, $34 million over 3 years, I can live with that. I can live with that. But again, you're not tied to him for another 3 or 4 years like you would have done with the Washington Commanders, to where they're now tied to Terry McLaurin for another 4 seasons. Now, we'll see what happens with that contract. Again, the details haven't come out yet. So I can't accurately give you the details of that contract. But I really liked what Cincinnati did here. They held firm, but ultimately they got what they wanted. They wanted Trey Hendrickson on a 1-year deal. They did not want to pay him out the wazoo and then ultimately look like, hey, he might be declining here. Woo. So contract talk is something that I am growing very tired of, because this is another saga in the world of football that I am just quite frankly getting annoyed by, because, everything that's going on in Dallas right now, it is a pain in the behind talking about contracts instead of the actual football games. So let's talk about the actual football game when it comes to the college football world. We have a great slate of games this upcoming Saturday. There's going to be a preview for the Clemson LSU game on the channel tomorrow at, I think, 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to spoil who I have winning that game, but I will spoil who I have winning the national championship this year. And the team I have winning the national championship is the Clemson Tigers. When you look at the fact that they're number 1 in the country in returning production, they're number 1 in returning production on the offensive side of the ball, they're number 7 in returning production on the defensive side of the ball. They did a lot of things when it came to, okay, we're going to add a few pieces in the portal to an already talented roster where we're returning a lot of guys. You bring back Cade Klubnik. You have a wide receiver room with Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Tristan Smith from Southeast Missouri State. Yes, that is an actual college. You have an offensive line that returns 4 of their 5 starters. You have a defensive line that I think is the best in the country. Peter Woods, by the way, you guys haven't watched this guy play. You got to watch this guy play. This guy is tremendous. I mean, this is a guy that can play, Dabo Swinney talked about it. He could play anywhere from a 0 to a 9 technique. But I think he is really elite when you have him in the interior positions of your defensive line. When I look at another guy in TJ Parker, excellent pass rusher, excellent defensive end as a whole. They have Capehart and DeMonte Capehart. They added Will Helt from Purdue. They have the linebackers that they have. They have the secondary that they have. It's an extremely talented defensive unit. And while they ranked 59th in the country in team defense last year, they're bringing in Tom Allen from Penn State. Thought about Ohio State there for a second because Jim Knowles from Ohio State is going to Penn State. They bring in Tom Allen from Penn State. Penn State had the number 8 team in the country when it came to team defense. And Tom Allen is now the defensive coordinator of the Clemson Tigers. And the Clemson Tigers have one of the most talented defenses in the entire country, right? So that's why I look at them and I say, not only is their offense elite, like maybe the best offense in the country, but they might have the best defense in the country. And they play in the ACC. If they beat LSU, they have a real chance to go 12-0. If they can beat South Carolina later in the year, they play 2 SEC opponents. They play LSU and South Carolina. Those are going to be the 2 games where I look at them and say, hey, if you can split those 2 games, you'll be fine. You will cruise to the college football playoffs if you can win one of those 2 games, which I believe they're going to win both of those games. And they have an ACC schedule. Obviously, they're going to have to play a team like possibly Miami in the conference championship. I think they're a better team than Miami. I just believe that. And, you talk about Dabo Swinney and people talked about with Dabo Swinney, he doesn't attack the transfer portal. ESPN made a whole bit of it last year. Why isn't he attacking the transfer portal? He should do this. He should do that. Meanwhile, you're sitting there in a suit and a tie, not coaching college football, not doing any type of coaching or executive things with any type of football program, but you're telling Dabo Swinney, a guy who won 2 national championships, he should do this. He should do that. Maybe you shouldn't be talking football on ESPN. What Dabo Swinney does with the transfer portal is there's 2 phases of the transfer portal. There's acquisition and there's retention. He may not be the best with acquisition because I think it's very hard to be the best at acquisition and retention because they are in battle with each other. Acquisition in the transfer portal and retention in the transfer portal are they're in dispute with each other because you can look at your recruits that you bring in. And it's actually, I think the way Dabo Swinney does it helps him with recruiting because he can look at these guys and say, I'm not going to replace you. I'm not going to try to replace you. That is not our first instinct. Our first instinct is to develop you into the player that we think you could potentially be. That's what Dabo Swinney looks at a recruit and says. And not only does he say it, but he means it. Because even though they did more in the transfer portal this year, they only brought in 4 players. They brought in 3 4-star players and then a 3-star player. It's not like they brought in, the 2024 Ohio State transfer portal or the 2025 LSU transfer portal. It's not like they did something like that. They added a few players who are going to help their football team out. And that's where I look at that and I applaud Dabo Swinney because he didn't sway. His thing is, hey, we have a great recruiting class. We do a very good job with recruiting. We're going to continue to do a very good job with recruiting. And the reason why we're going to do a very good job with recruiting is because of the fact that we don't look to replace these guys at the first sign of turmoil. We let these guys develop into the players that we recruited, that we think that they can be. And man, if LSU wins this national championship, it's going to be a lot of I told yous with Dabo Swinney. And I think, football, when it comes to college football, NFL, it's about what the team at the top is doing. What is the team at the top doing? How did they do such a good job of building a fantastic football team, so much so that they can win a championship in their sport? You look at what they're doing and you say, how do we replicate that? And I think that's how people are going to look at Clemson this year. They're going to look at Clemson and they're going to say, How can we replicate that? What Dabo Swinney just did, how can we do that? That's what teams are going to look at. And again, it's strong recruiting. It's very good coaching when it comes to developing these guys. It's having a belief that these guys are going to develop. It's all the things that, coaches preach, but they don't live by. Dabo Swinney, it's different. And we know what Dabo Swinney has been able to do as a head coach. This is why Clemson keeps him around, because he's a really good head coach. And understand this, Clemson was very good last year. They were a very good football team. They had some bad losses last year. I get it. They lost big to Georgia. They lost to South Carolina. They lost to Louisville, I believe they did. But I mean, at the end of the day, they still won the ACC. And I think if they were able to stop a nosebleed against the run when it came to playing Texas, that probably would have been a more competitive game. It turned into a competitive game there at the end. But I just look at Clemson. I look at the returning pieces. I look at the fact that Dabo Swinney has masterfully navigated the transfer portal when it comes to, I'm not going to bring in a whole new team through it because I recruited a really good team, but I am going to bring in players that I think can help my program. And that's exactly what he did. And I even though I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm rooting for them to win the national championship again. Part of me wants Clemson to win, not only because I would be right in my prediction of Clemson winning the national championship, but I would also love to see all the people on these national media shows have to backtrack after telling Dabo Swinney how to run his program. That would be just, I wouldn't get enough of that. I wouldn't be able to get enough of that. That's going to be it for the show today, guys. I appreciate you guys for coming out. Please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Make sure to check out the Mic Drop and the Stadium Pulse. I just did an interview with my good buddy Okoye Media yesterday. It's on the page. Boxing is something that Kretschman Media is going to take very seriously. We are looking forward to bringing content to the world of boxing. I mean, not me, in particular. I'm not going to be talking about boxing more on this page because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm more of a boxing casual fan. But that's why I hired one of the best in the business to bring you guys boxing content. So Okoye, we're getting things going with his page right now when it comes to Okoye Knows Boxing. That's going to be the page name. That's going to be the podcast name. And he's going to bring a lot of really fun things to the page when it comes to breaking down technique. And we have a lot of fun things planned for that channel. So please make sure to check that out. And we have our basketball show starting next week as well with Dub's Room. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait for you guys to see what we have in store. But that's going to be it for the episode, though, guys. I will see you guys in the next episode.
I ain't been doing nothing but drinking and thinking, yeah. Oh, since you've been away.
DJ Payne 1.
Oh!